everyone, welcome to another episode of First Chapter Fridays. This is the first of the new year, so Happy New Year. I hope everyone's New Year's going well so far. Our first book of the new year is The Someday List. It's by Stacy, Hawkins, Adams. Here it is. It's the first in a series. And it's about a woman. She's married, she has children. She has this really, successful life on the outside, but inside she feels like she's missing something, and she kind of takes this journey. She goes back to visit her family, and it's all about just her rediscovering what she wants. So let's read the first chapter of The Someday List. Rochelle Mitchell Covington felt both giddy and guilty. In 24 hours, she would be completely alone, and she couldn't wait. No worries about temporary empty nest syndrome. She was happy to let her parents deal with two pre-adolescent know-it-alls for half of the summer. And no need to feign an interest in her husband's wants, work, or even his world. For the first time in their 11-year marriage, she and Gabe would be away from each other for more than a week. When he informed her that he had agreed to speak at a medical conference the week before he left for a medical mission trip, she knew he expected her to complain. Rochelle had frowned for his benefit, but also bit her lip to keep from cheering. Though it was already steaming outside this morning, the temperature inside Houston's Intercontinental Airport left her longing for her cashmere coat. Rochelle shivered and smiled when Tate and Taryn, looking like they had stepped off the pages of a Children's Wear Digest catalog, turned to wave one last time before passing through the security gate and approaching a waiting airline employee. The young woman in the crisp navy and white uniform would escort them to their direct flight to Philadelphia. The 5th and 3rd graders had been trying to wind their way out of their annual summer visit with Rochelle's parents for 2 days because they would miss their friends, feared boredom, and believed Graham would have way too many rules. Rochelle had reminded them again this morning that, despite those perceived hardships, they had no problem enjoying the regular outings, video games, and other treats they enjoyed during their stay. When Tate and Taryn disappeared around a bend that led to Terminal A, Gabe turned toward Rochelle and motioned with his head that he was ready to go. He and Rochelle walked briskly toward the parking deck without touching or talking. Gabe walked a stride or two ahead of her, as if he were on a mission. He tempered his gait as they neared his SUV, and he unlocked the doors with his keychain device. "I'm not going into the office this morning, since I'll be flying out early tomorrow," he said, without looking toward Rochelle. "Let's grab breakfast at Olivet." Rochelle scrambled for an excuse, but none presented itself. She hadn't mentioned that she soon would be leaving too for a weekend trip to the West Coast. It didn't matter that he didn't know. He wasn't going to be home anyway. "That's fine," she finally said about breakfast, although he had already steered his Mercedes in the direction of the hotel restaurant. They rode in silence during the half-hour drive and didn't speak until the waitress asked for their order. Rochelle sighed and responded by rote. "He'll have smoked salmon and a bagel with a side of fresh fruit." Gabe nodded and looked up at the waitress. She got it right. "Salmon and bagel with a side of fruit," the waitress repeated, lodging the order in her memory. Rochelle leveled her eyes at Gabe. "Order for me." He peered at her over the rim of his glasses. "How would I know what to order for you?" Rochelle didn't feel like playing along with his public politeness today. She sat back and folded her arms. "Try." The waitress shifted from one foot to the other and turned her gaze to a nearby bank of potted plants. Gabe's nostrils flared and he clenched his teeth. "Just order something already." "If you can't do it, I guess I'm not hungry," Rochelle said. Gabe opened the leather-encased menu and glared at the offerings. Seconds later, he pushed it into the waitress's face. Startled, she grabbed it before it landed on the oriental rug beneath the table. "Bring her an omelet with ham, mushrooms, and cheddar cheese." The waitress nodded and left quickly, her reddish-brown ponytail swaying with each step. Rochelle knew the young lady had to be wondering how a couple could fight over a breakfast order. If she had asked, Rochelle would have assured her this skirmish was overdue. Since she had received Jillian's unsettling invitation 3 weeks ago, Rochelle's tolerance for just about everything had plummeted. With the kids away for the next month, she didn't have to contain herself. Gabe should be thankful he was leaving for a business trip tomorrow. He laid his linen napkin across his lap and stared at her. Rochelle challenged him with her eyes. She wanted him to care enough to question her, to probe why she was being defiant. But just as she knew what to order for his meal, she knew he wouldn't take the bait. He was his usual detached self, enveloped in skin that was a smooth, savory brown, and as self-absorbed as a 2-year-old whose favorite words were no and mine. In that moment, something welled up inside of her. She looked past Gabe's glasses, past the perfect white teeth, past the pool of nothingness in his eyes. She wanted to see into his soul. She wanted to know that he had an I would die for you kind of love inside of him. For her. Even if they had been together for what seemed like forever. Even if she didn't know how she really felt about him. If one of them could summon the emotion, maybe that would make all the difference. He was leaving tomorrow for New York and would return home for one day before traveling to Uganda. In 24 hours, she'd have the entire house to herself. But right now, she realized she needed to leave to save herself. Right now, what mattered more than being a good wife was being good to herself. Hearing from Jillian for the first time in a long time was nudging her to stop procrastinating. Rochelle took a sip of her coffee and rose from her seat. Stay and enjoy your breakfast. Call a taxi when you're done. I may or may not be at home by then. What? Before he could protest, Rochelle raised her hand to stop him. Her voice trembled when she addressed him in a whisper. Gabe, I'm tired of playing like the happy couple. Our life is strangling me. I want a real marriage, and this isn't it. And by the way, I've always hated cheddar cheese. She grabbed her purse from the back of her chair and strode toward the door, heart pounding as if it would burst through her sleeveless tangerine top. Had she really done that? Did she just walk away from a well-to-do, handsome husband and leave him stranded in a restaurant? What would her parents say? Their friends? For the first time that she could recall, those questions wouldn't determine her actions. Rochelle slowed her pace when she reached the restaurant's entrance and nodded farewell to the hostess. She strode through the lobby of the Houstonian Hotel and thanked the bellhop who held open the door for her. While the valet retrieved Gabe's Mercedes truck, she stood at his booth, tapping her foot and looking over her shoulder. In the minutes since she had left, Gabe hadn't pursued her. Despite the fact that she had fueled this drama, she was hurt. She breathed in the humid summer air and exhaled slowly, trying to keep her composure. For once, she wished she were sweaty enough to mask the moisture on her face. The last thing she wanted to admit was that once again, she had allowed him to make her cry. Okay, so if you want to read the rest of Rochelle's story, you can check out physical copies through the library. You can place holds at briggslibrary.com, or you can do ebooks and audiobooks through Overdrive. All right, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.